We continue our In the Black moment in Black history with Mrs. Mamie Elizabeth Till Mobley. Born Mamie Elizabeth Carthen on November 23, 1921 in Webb, Mississippi, Carthen's family left the southern United States during the period when millions of African Americans migrated the northern United States, primarily to industrial cities in the Great Migration, African American. At the age of 18, Mamie met a young man from New Madrid, Missouri, named Louis Till. He worked at the Argo Corn Company, was an amateur boxer, and was popular with women. Mamie's parents disapproved, thinking the charismatic Till was too sophisticated for their daughter. At her mother's insistence, she broke off their courtship. But the persistent Till won out, and they married on October 14, 1940. Both were 18 years old. Their only child, Emmett, was born 9 months later. Louis joined the Army in 1943. In 1945, she received notice from the War Department that her husband had been killed in Army service in Italy. Louis Till was convicted of rape, along with his accomplice, Fred A. McMurray, of an Italian woman. They were both tried and convicted by a U.S. Army General Court Martial, and their sentence was death by hanging. Their sentence was appealed but denied. The fifth field, the story of the 96 American soldiers sentenced to death and executed in Europe and North Africa in World War II. Colonel French L. McLean, U.S. Army, retired. By the early 1950s, Mamie and Emmett had moved to Chicago's South Side. Mamie met and married Pink Bradley, but they divorced 2 years later. In 1955, when Emmett was 14, his mother put him on the train to spend the summer visiting his cousins in Money, Mississippi. Mamie never saw him alive again. Emmett was abducted and brutally murdered on August 28, 1955, after being accused of interacting inappropriately with a white woman. The following month, Roy Bryant and his half-brother, J.W. Milam, faced trial for Till's kidnapping and murder, but were acquitted by the all-white jury after a 5-day trial and a 67 deliberation. One juror said, if we hadn't stopped to drink pop, it wouldn't have taken that long. Only months later, in another interview with Look magazine in 1956, protected against double jeopardy, Bryant and Milam admitted to killing Emmett Till. For Emmett's funeral, Mamie insisted that the casket containing his body be left open because, in her words, I wanted the world to see what they did to my baby. Tens of thousands of people viewed Emmett's body, and photographs were circulated around the country. Through the consistency and the constant attention it received, the Till case became emblematic of the disparity of justice for blacks in the South. The NAACP asked Mamie to tour the country relating the events of her son's life, death, and the trial of his murderers. It was one of the most successful fundraising campaigns the NAACP had ever known. Mamie graduated from Chicago Teachers College in 1960, now Chicago State University, 1971. She married Gene Mobley on June 24, 1957. She became a teacher, changed her surname to Till Mobley, and continued her life as an activist, working to educate people about what happened to her son. In 1976, Mamie obtained a master's degree in educational administration from Loyola University, Chicago. In 1992, she had the opportunity to listen while Roy Bryant was interviewed about his involvement in her son's murder. With Bryant unaware that Mamie was listening, he asserted that Emmett Till had ruined his life. He expressed no remorse and stated, Emmett Till is dead. I don't know why he can't just stay dead. Mamie and Gene Mobley remained happily married until Gene's death from a stroke on March 18, 2000. On January 6, 2003, Till Mobley died of heart failure at the age of 81. The same year, her autobiography, written by Christopher Benson, Death of Innocence, the story of the hate crime that changed America, was published.
I too give honor to God, who is the source of my strength and the reason for my being. In 1955, when my only child was killed, it seemed that there was nothing for me to live for. I wanted to die. But in the midst of that planning, the Lord spoke to me, and he told me not to spend my time hating the perpetrators of the crime, because they would not even know that I was hating them. And the things that would be released into my body would eventually destroy me. And while I was pondering that statement, another thing came, something was spoken to me, and that something was, I am the ruler of heaven and earth. I see all things. I'm commissioning you to go into the vineyard and work. And what is right, I will pay. And don't forget that vengeance is mine. And a wonderful thing happened to me. It seemed like someone took a giant eraser and my mind had become a chalkboard. And everything, all memories of Mr. Milam and Mr. Bryant were erased from my thoughts. I was able to go out into the vineyard and work, which I'd been commissioned to do, and that work turned out to be training boys and girls to do Dr. King's speeches. I can truthfully say that for 47 years, I have not wasted any time hating Milam and Bryant. They became inconsequential so far as I was concerned. It was as if they didn't even exist. And since I have had time to think things over, I don't want anyone dead. And even the people that are proven guilty, and these two men did confess of their foul deed, but even so, I do not wish, I don't have the balance of life and death in my hands. That was entrusted to God himself. He sends us here, he takes us away. I do know that from time to time I've heard rumors of Milam and Bryant. I know that both of them lost 2 sons each because they were married to 2 women, and those 2 women, their little sons were about the same age, 4 down. And they did not have the pleasure of spending their lives with their sons. And I do know that they thought they were heroes, but when their backers backed up and would not support them, they spent a very miserable life wondering, we are the heroes, and all of a sudden we are nobody. So I'm sure that they paid. They're both deceased now, but I am sure that they paid for their error. But another thing I know, they never confessed repentance. They never regretted what they had done. In fact, in a 3-way conversation with Bryant, he said he would do the same thing over again, and not only to Emmett Till, but to whoever got in his way. So I think I felt sorry for him that he did not have a spiritual life, and I just wonder where he thought he was going to spend eternity, or if he thought he was going to be here forever. Because there's one sentence that you cannot escape, and that is when you go before the judgment seat of God, he will give the verdict. And I am glad that he took hatred out of my heart and had me to go on with my life, speaking whenever someone called on me to speak. And then I went to school, became a teacher, And believe me, when you're dealing with children all day, you have so many problems, or they have so many problems, that you are trying to help them resolve until it doesn't leave time for self-pity or dwelling in the past. You've got to be in the future and jumping ahead as fast as you can to help those that you're trying to take along to higher heights and deeper depths in knowledge and in the fear of God. Thank you.